Hi, I'm Judith Germain from the Maverick Paradox, and it's my pleasure to host unscripted Maverick conversations where I will explore an aspect of Maverick leadership with experts in their own fields.
So today's conversation, I am talking to David Chislett about rebel, reject, and create. Hi, David.
Hi, Judith.
I am dead curious. I've always loved those three words. Tell us more about those.
Well, basically, for me, this is it's the crowbar that I use to prise a conversation open around creativity. Because I think when a lot of people see that, rebel, reject, create, they're probably expecting some kind of anarchist manifesto. But it's really not about that at all. I mean, just to break it down for you, so the rebel part is basically to stop accepting that everything that you're being told is true, to start questioning, to start asking yourself what's actually going on around you, and just to push back a little bit on the black and white, the yes and no, the right and wrong answers that we get every single day in life. The reject is a more internal part, where what I'm talking about here is confirmation bias, for example. Reject your immediate reaction, your pattern recognition engine that's just telling you, oh yes, this fits in this box. Reject that for a moment, push back against that as well. And then comes the positive reworking of everything with the create part. Because when you've broken the rules and you've pushed back against your own assumptions, you're left in this empty field where there's a whole bunch of options. But the one thing that is not optional, that you've now got to create something because you've rebelled and rejected everything else. And that's, for me, is the powerful moment of the mantra. It's about, breaking down the walls of your own making and those that have been put around you so that you have open space in which to create.
That's fascinating. So is that what makes the weapon of mass creation? Is it those three elements?
Pretty much. In order to be able to weaponize your creativity, you first have to break out of the constraints that you currently are under.
See, I love the idea of weaponizing it, because you think a weapon, it's a bad thing, it's going to destroy. But then you talk about mass creation. So it's almost like a genesis. So it's like destroying the old to create something, to give life to something else. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, nothing comes from nothing, right? So by rebelling and rejecting, you're reducing things to their component parts and then reassembling, some kind of regenesis.
Oh. So you're like a bit like a mad scientist.
Well, definitely mad. I'm not so sure about the scientist.
So how does that work in the workplace then? So you go up to somebody and what do you do to make them create in that way?
Well, it's always good to challenge some of the assumptions around what people are doing and why they're doing it the way they're doing it. So I often find that companies in particular struggle to change or to grow, particularly to innovate, because there's an addiction to the way things have always been done. But when you put that under the microscope and you ask someone, but why? Why are you doing it this way? How does that connect to the next part? You begin to reveal the gaps in the thinking. And that's where then people are able to rebel against it and go, well, wait a minute, but that's just not efficient, or that's not right, or, that's just wasting my time. And once you've done that kind of examination, people are a lot calmer about this idea of going, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And the same goes for themselves, to ask people, well, when that situation occurs, why do you react that way? What's that all about? Where's that coming from? And by shining a bit of a light into the darker corners of the way we react or the rules that we obey, you begin to see that, well, maybe there is more going on than the kind of black and white assumption that we're currently operating under.
Yeah, because I'd imagine if you went into a corporation and told them you're going to teach their staff to rebel, they'd go crazy.
Yes.
So how do you convince them that step is necessary?
Right. Well, the first question is, why are you here talking to me? Do you want to change or not? And, if you don't want to change, that's obviously a very short conversation. But as Einstein is reputed to have said, Madness, the definition of, is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. So if you want a different result, we have to go and look at what you're doing, and we have to think about reframing it. And I'm choosing to use particularly provocative words to reframe it because I really want you to reframe it. I don't want you just to do a little bit of a tweak. I need to break the perspective wide open so that we can start to see where all the gaps are that the sunlight's coming through, so that whatever we do then create together has a better chance of longevity.
Okay. So it sounds, to start off with, when you say your 3 words, it sounds kind of fun, but this is serious, isn't it? So there's play in this seriousness.
Absolutely. If we're all too serious the whole time, all we're doing is engaging our rational, conscious brain, and actually, quite frankly, limited capacity that has. When you step into play and things are a bit more fun and a bit more instinctive, people start to access more of their and subconscious brain, and are therefore able to do actually a lot more impressive processing and ideation. So the play factor is, it's important.
Okay. So is there a process to do this or not?
Well, it depends a lot on a client by client basis. But the first step of the process is a bit of an audit to see where they actually are and to understand the problem that they are facing better. Okay. Once that's complete, the next step I always look at is who is the team and where are they? Creativity, as defined by Mel Rhodes, is a 4-level construct. It's a framework that includes people, products, processes, and the environment. And so in order to help anybody change for the better, I need to look at all 4 of those aspects before engaging in a process or a workshop or whatever it is that they're after.
Okay. So I don't know if you find it, I know that I've certainly seen it, that you're doing a workshop or training or something, and there are people that are very good at rebelling and rejecting. How do you push them into the creation part?
Yeah, I think it's I mean, that's an accusation I got, I think, through my entire 20s. It's like, so you want to break everything down. What are you going to put in its place? Well, I challenge them by just simply saying, and. Okay, so you're going to rebel against this, and what are you going to do? And in a group environment, that's quite powerful. So I don't really like people saying but, because but is a conversation ender. It's basically saying no. So, but when you say and, immediately your mind goes to, oh, well, then, and then off you go. So for the people who love the rebelling, rejecting part, because they basically hate their job and the people they work with, the and then says, okay, so how can it be better?
I suppose the and then the power of that silence with the open body language, it kind of pushes people towards creativity, because everybody else is kind of leaned in, aren't they? They're kind of what they're going to say next. So then they've got the added peer pressure, haven't they, to go, oh, I need to now do something.
Well, there's that, I think, but also and is quite an inviting word. It doesn't feel dangerous to say and. So people aren't as afraid as me saying, well, now give me your good ideas.
Also, yeah. And by putting people on the spot in a kind of loving way like that, you're forcing that creativity without having to go through that usual stage of the bad ideas come up first. You've kind of jumped ahead of all of that to the good ones almost.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer to say it like you're framing the conversation in a way, you're holding a space which doesn't require forcing. It's more natural when you start talking about ands, once you've gone through the rebellion and the rejection, than to say, okay, now we're going to do some ideation. That's forcing.
So what should happen now, though? So if companies are sitting there and they're thinking, how do I get my organization en masse to be able to be more creative so that we can move into new markets, really kind of influence our market share? What can they do on a mass basis?
Well, if they're really serious about doing it on a mass basis, they need to involve absolutely everybody from the ground up. It can't really be a top-down decision. Another one of the fundamental principles of creativity is diversity of thought. And quite often the high-up decision makers are fairly far away from the action on the shop floor and the interaction with the client. And so a lot of the ideas that they come up with are somewhat divorced from the reality of the actual business. So again, that's where the whole environment that things take place in is so important. If you want to create en masse change, you have to enact en masse change in the environment in which your people are working and the way you talk to them, and the channels that are open for feedback and conversation.
That must be scary for some people. How can you make it less scary?
Well, the way I like to look at it is just, take, for example, maybe you've got a marketing team and there's 10 people on the marketing team and they come up with all the bright ideas. But you have a business that employs 4,000 people. And so what I say to people is, imagine if you had a mechanism for all the great ideas of 4,000 people to go into the marketing pipeline. How much greater would your chances be of coming up with pure gold? Because you just have so many ideas that, statistically speaking, you're going to find more good ideas. And that's what the reframing is about. It's about tapping into the intellectual capacity of your entire organization instead of just the anointed few.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. What a great place to end there. So, David, that was a fantastic conversation. Would you come back another time?
For sure. Always.
Right. So I know people are dying to find out. How are they going to get hold of you if they want to find out more?
The best place is just my website, which is really easy, David Chislett with 2 T's at the end.com. And there's a contact form there. You can also sign up for my newsletter. I have loads of articles you could read about creativity, but that's the best starting point.
Fantastic. Thank you, David.
Thank you for listening in today. I hope you enjoyed my Maverick conversation with David Chislett, and we'll continue to explore the world of Maverick leadership with me, whether that's with my book, magazine, or podcast.
There'll be more Maverick conversations soon.